Hey there, you guys. My name is Adrienne. I'm a business owner for the last 13 years, and today we're going to talk about projections. So, the thing about projections is they are not perfect, they're not magic, and they shouldn't be intimidating. If you've ever watched a show like Shark Tank and you've heard the contestant talk about 5-year projections or projections a year ahead, it can feel like, oh my gosh, this is huge calculation and I want to know how to do it and it seems so hard. Don't let it overwhelm you. It's easy to do and it doesn't have to be perfect. But the thing about projections is it gives you kind of an insight and a target of where your business revenue is going and where you should aim for in the period ahead. So in this case, we're going to talk about projections for the year ahead. All right, so let's do that in real time. So I have 2023's revenue, and that is $100,000. All right, and then I have 2024's revenue, and that was $120,000. So the first thing we need to do is figure out our growth. And I'll do this below. All right, so we're gonna have to subtract last year's from the year before. And so I'm going to take 120,000, which was last year's, 2024, minus the year before. And what do I get? $20,000. Now remember, we are not having any shame around numbers. Some years are gonna be big and some years are gonna be not as big. So then you'll take this number and then divide it by the year before. So then you'll take the $20,000 and then you'll add it, or excuse me, divide it by $100,000. And that will get you 0.20. And remember, up at the top, I'll say you multiply it by multiply it times 100, and that gives you a growth of 20%. That means in 1 year's time, your business grew 20%, which is good growth, right? And so then you need to determine, as the business owner, you're going to look at trends, or you can just say, hey, I think this was a good year and I can expect for next year the growth to be the same or things to be the same. So I want to calculate this same growth for next year. So then you'll have to do step 2, and that is calculate the projection. So then you will take your last year's growth, which is $120,000, 120, and then you multiply it. You'll multiply it times 1.20. You'll multiply it times 1 point, and I got the 20 because the 20% growth, all right? If you multiply 120,000 times 1.20, their projection for 2025 would be $144,000 for the year 2025. So that is a projection, and I want to just be really clear. Projections are not spot on. They're not crystal balls, but at least you have somewhere to aim towards. For so long in my business, I kind of just said, well, let's just hope for the best. I just want to do better than I did the year before. And you know what? That's great. But when you put a number to it, you're aiming for something. If I meet it, great. If not, let me find out either what happened, why I surpassed it, why I didn't meet it. And then you can start to make better business decisions instead of kind of like throwing what they say is like what they call spaghetti at the wall. All right. So we'll take 2 more sets of numbers and try that again, because sometimes I need to do it twice. Okay. So let's try that again. All right. So let's do one more example when growth is not so much. All right. And so these are actually my real numbers from a few years back. And so one year I had my revenue was 240,000, but then the following year my revenue was 249,000. So I had growth, but it really wasn't that much. And some years are going to be like that. I know sometimes on social media we see these astronomical growth years, but some years just quite frankly are not that. So let's calculate it when it's that way, because sometimes you'll have a single digit and you'll do it just a bit different. All right. So the last year was 249. So I'm going to calculate it down below. So 249 minus 240,000, that equals 9,000, right? And then you will divide that by the 240K, right? So I'll do that here. And is that confusing, you guys, if I do it beside? So I'll do it below. So $9,000 divided by 240,000, and then multiply that by 100, and that equals up to 3.75. So I had growth that year, but that was I had 3.75% growth, right? So that's 3% growth, 3.75% growth. So I'm always one that will take an increase, right? So if I want to calculate my projection, if nothing's changed, everything stayed the same, remember we're going tens, hundreds, in the tens, hundreds place. So just like when it was 20% growth, I put my 2 here. There's nothing in the hundreds place. So I'll put a 0 there, and then we'll put 375. All right. Because if you put your 3 here, it's going to be like you're saying you had 30% growth. So it's super important that you multiply this last year, which was 249,000 times 1.0375 equals 258,337. So that might be, the thing about projections is you can say if nothing changed, this could be what I'm shooting for. But I remember that was kind of my lowest point when I was like, I'm working way too hard to only make a 3% increase. And that for me was the point where I was like, lots has to change. And that's when I started seeing way more growth. So you can make your projection anything you want. You could say, BS, we won't be projecting that this year because I'm going to hire more people, or I'm going to let go of more people and do more work, outsource more work so I can do more things to grow my business, whatever. So whatever you want your projection to be, you can say, hey, I'm going to project that I'm going to grow 35%. And you can project that, and that could be your projection. Knowing your numbers, knowing your projections helps you set realistic goals for the future. And it also just helps you feel a little more confident knowing your numbers. So if you like this video, if it was helpful at all, please go ahead and hit subscribe or share it with someone. Find an accountability partner that you're comfortable sharing numbers with, or just working side by side, just alongside with, that you could work on your numbers with. Because hey, I know it's sometimes kind of fun and cute to say, I'm not good at math or I'm not comfortable with numbers, but knowing numbers, feeling a little bit more comfortable with them is what makes us better business people, business women, and better business owners. So you can do this. This is something you can do. For now, this is all. Until next time, take care. Bye.